Ashtavakra Gita, Day 2, Part 2, Chapter 1. The first sutra, the first verse. Janaka asked, O Lord, how does one attain wisdom? And how does liberation happen? And how is non-attachment attained? Please tell me this. Tell me, O Lord, explain it to me. To a boy of 12, King Janaka says, O Lord, Bhagwan, please explain. Give some understanding to an unknowing person like me. Awaken an ignorant person like me. 3 questions are asked. How does one attain wisdom? Naturally, we might wonder, why does he need to ask? There are books filled with these things. Janaka also knew this. What books are filled with is not wisdom. It is simply the dust wisdom leaves behind, the ashes. When the flame of wisdom burns, ashes is left behind. Ash goes on accumulating and it becomes scripture. The Vedas are ash. Once they were burning coals. Vedic sages burned them in their souls, and ash was left behind. Then the ashes were collected, compiled, and systematically organized. It is like people collecting the ashes and the bone when a man's body has been burned. They call these flowers. People are very strange. They never called a man a flower when he was alive. But after burning him, they collect his bone, saying that they have collected the flowers. Then they preserve them. They keep them in casket. While the man was alive, living, they never respected him as a flower. While he was living, they never ever looked at him as a flower. When he dies, a man is insane. They call his bone, his ashes flowers. In the same way, when a Buddha is alive, you do not listen. When a Mahavir walks among you, you get angry. It seems that this man is destroying your dreams or is interfering with your sleep. Is this any time to be woken up? Just as my dreams have started coming true, just as success is entering my life, just as my chances are getting better, as the arrow is hitting the target, now this fellow comes and says everything is meaningless. Just as I win the elections and the way is open to get into power, this man comes along and says, it is all dream. It has no meaning. That the death will come and take everything. Don't talk like this. When death comes, we will see. But don't even bring up such things now. But when Mahavir dies or Buddha dies, we collect all their ashes. We create the Dhammapada, we create the Vedas out of them, and then we offer flowers of worship. Janaka also knew that the scriptures are filled with information. But he asked, how does one attain wisdom? Because no matter how much you know, wisdom is not attained. You can go on gathering more and more knowledge, learn the scripture by heart, become parrots, memorize each and every sutra. Let the complete Vedas be imprinted in your memory. But still there will be no wisdom. How does one attain wisdom? How does liberation happen? He asked because what you call wisdom, knowledge, binds you instead. How can this be liberation? Wisdom is that which liberates you. Jesus had said, the truth shall make you free. Wisdom is that which liberates you. This is the citation of truth. Pandit don't appear to be liberated. They look enslaved. They talk about liberation, but they don't look free. They seem to be bound with thousands fetters. Have you ever observed? Your so-called religious people seem to be more enslaved than you. You may have little freedom, but your saints are more stuck than you. They are just blind followers of tradition. They cannot move freely. They cannot sit freely. They cannot live freely. Janak asked, how does liberation happen? What is liberation? Explain to me the wisdom which liberates. Freedom is man's most important longing. Achieve everything, but if you are still unfree, it hurts. Attain everything, but if freedom is not attained, you have not attained anything. Man wants the open sky, unbounded. This is man's innermost longing, most secret longing for a space where there are no limits, no barriers. You may call it the longing to become divine, or call it longing for moksha, liberation. In Sanskrit, we have chosen right word, moksha. Such a lovely word does not exist in any other language. There are words like heaven, paradise, but those words don't have the melody of moksha. Moksha has a unique music. It simply means a freedom so ultimate that it has no barrier, a freedom so pure it is unlimited. Janak asked, and how does liberation happen? And how is non-attachment attained? O Lord, please tell me this. Ashtavakra must have looked carefully at Janak, because this is the first thing a master does when somebody inquires. He observes attentively from what source this inquiry is arising. Why has this questioner asked something? The master's answer can be significant only if we understand clearly why the question is asked. Remember, a person who has attained truth, a master, does not answer your question. He answers you. He doesn't bother much about what you ask. He is more concerned with why you have asked. What is behind the question, the complex, hidden in unconsciousness? What desires is actually hiding behind the screen of your question? There are 4 types of people in this world: the wise, the seeker, the ignorant, the idiot. And there are 4 types of inquiry. The first inquiry is wordless, the inquiry of the wise, the Jnani, the one who knows. Actually, the inquiry of the wise is not an inquiry at all. He knows. Nothing is left to be known. He has reached. The mind has become clear, become calm. He has come home. He has come to a state of relaxation. So Jnani's inquiry is not an inquiry at all. This does not mean that a Jnani is not ready to learn. A Jnani becomes simple, like small child. He is always ready to learn. The more you learn, the more readiness to learn increases. The more you become simple and innocent, the more you open to learning. Winds come and find your door open. The sun comes and doesn't need to knock on your door. Existence comes and finds you always available. A Jnani does not collect knowledge. He simply has the capacity to know. Understand this well, because it will be useful for you. Jnani simply means one who is open totally to learning, who has no prejudice prejudice, who has no buffers against learning, who has no pre-planned system or structure for knowing. A Gyani means a Dhyani, who is meditative. Ashtavakra must have observed carefully, looked into Janak, and seen this person is not a Gyani. He has not attained meditation, otherwise, his inquiry would be silent. There would be no words in it. There is an incident in Buddha's life. A fakir came to meet him. A lone ascetic came to see him. A wanderer, he came and said to Buddha, I have no words capable of asking. I have no skill to bring what I want to ask into the words. And you know it already. Understand and say whatever is right for me. This is the inquiry of one who knows. Buddha was sitting silently. He didn't say a thing. After a short time, it seemed as if something has happened. The man had been looking at Buddha, and now his eyes started overflowing with tears. He bowed at Buddha's feet and said, Thank you. I am really fortunate. You gave me what I came here for. He got up and left. His face was radiating an aura of unique splendor. He went dancing. The disciples around Buddha were confused. Ananda asked, Bhante, Bhagwan, it is a mystery. First, this man says, I don't know how to ask. I don't know in which word to ask. I don't even know what I have come to ask. But you know everything. Look at me. Say whatever is needed for me. First, this man is mystery. Is this any way to inquire? If you don't know what to ask, then why ask at all? How can you ask? Incredible. But the matter doesn't end here. You were sitting silently, and you went on sitting silently. We have never seen you sit so mute. If someone asks, you answer. Sometimes it happens that someone doesn't ask and still you answer. Your compassion is always flowing. What happened that suddenly you were silent and your eyes closed? And then what alchemy happened? That the man began transforming. We saw him changing. We saw him undergoing a complete mutation. We saw ecstasy coming over him. He has gone dancing, flowing with tears, overwhelmed. He bowed at your feet. His fragrance has touched us too. Ecstatic. What has happened? You didn't utter a word. How did he hear? And we are here with you for so many days, for years. Is your compassion less toward us? Why don't we receive the grace you gave him? But remember, you get as much as you are able to receive. Buddha said, listen. Horses. He talks to Ananda about horses because Ananda was a warrior. He was a cousin of Buddha and from an early age was very fond of horses. He was a rider. He was a famous rider, a great competitor. Listen, Ananda, Buddha said. There are 4 types of horses. One type will not budge an inch even if you whip it. The most worthless of all horses. The more you whip them, the more stubbornly they resist. They stand still as stubborn as a Hatha yogi. If you whip them, you only provoke resistance. Then there is a second type of horse. If you whip them, they move. If you don't whip them, they don't move. At least they are better than the first. And there is a third type of horse. Just a crack the whip to strike them is not necessary. Just a crack the whip, the sound is enough. they are more aristocratic and better than the second kind. Then Ananda, you must know those horses which run just by seeing the shadow of the whip. You don't even need to crack it. That man was that kind of horse. The shadow was enough. Ashtavakra must have looked carefully when you come to ask me something. You yourself are a question, more important than what you ask. Sometimes you may also feel that I have answered a question you didn't ask. And perhaps you may even feel I have avoided your question, sidestepped it, and answered something else. But for me, your inner need is always more important. What you ask is not important because you yourself don't really know what you are asking, why you are asking. The answer is being given only for your need. Nothing of the answer is decided by your question. Ashtavakra must have seen that Janak is not a Gyani. Is he an ignorant then? No, he is not ignorant either, because the ignorant person is arrogant. He stands proudly erect. He doesn't even know how to bow down. And this man has bowed down at his feet, stretched himself full length at the feet of 12-year-old boy. This is impossible for ignorant. The ignorant thinks he already knows. Who is going to explain anything to him? If an ignorant person does ask, he asks just to prove you wrong, because the ignorant presumes he already knows and wants to see whether you know it or not. The ignorant person asks to test you. Ashtavakra must have thought, no, Janak's eyes are very clear. Even though he is an emperor, he asked me, an unknown, unfamiliar boy of 12 years, "O Lord, please explain to me." No, he is humble. He is not ignorant. Is he an idiot then? Idiot never ask. Idiot don't have any idea that there is any problems in life. There is a similarity between idiots and enlightened ones. For the enlightened ones, no problem remains. For idiots, no problem has yet arisen. Enlightened ones have gone beyond problems. The idiots have not yet entered them. Idiots are so unconscious. How can they ask questions? Will an idiot ask, what is wisdom? Will an idiot ask, what is liberation? Will an idiot ask, what is non-attachment? Impossible. And if an idiot does ask, he will ask how to fulfill his passions. If an idiot asks, he will ask how to live here few more days. Liberation? No. An idiot asks how to make his chain golden, how to inlay his chains with diamonds. If an idiot asks, he will ask such things. Wisdom? An idiot does not imagine that wisdom can exist. He cannot accept even the possibility. He will say, what is wisdom? An idiot lives like a beast. No, Janak is not an idiot either. He is a mumukshu, a seeker of truth. The word mumukshu needs to be understood. Mumukshu is the desire for liberation, the desire for moksha. Still he has not reached liberation. He is not a Gyani. He is not standing with his back towards liberation. He is not an idiot. He is not sitting stuck to any traditional ideas about liberation. He is not ignorant either. He is a mumukshu. Mumukshu means that his inquiry is simple, straightforward. It is neither corrupted by idiocy nor twisted by ignorant preconceptions. His inquiry is pure. He asks with an innocent mind. Ashtavakra replied, O beloved, if you want liberation, then renounce the Vishayas, the passions, as Visha, poison, and take forgiveness, innocence, compassion, contentment, and the truth as nectar. If you want liberation, then renounce the Vishas, the passion as Visha, the poison. The word Vishaya is very meaningful. It is derived from Visha, means poison. The meaning of Visha is a substance which if one eats one will die. The meaning of Vishaya is that which if we consume it, we will die again and again. With the passion, we die again and again. With the food, we die again and again. With ambition, anger, hatred, burning jealousy, consuming this, we go on dying again and again. We have died again and again because of this. Up until now, have we known living in life? We have known only death. Our life until now, where is the flaming torch of life? There is only the smoke of death. From birth to death, we are gradually dying. Are we living? We die every single day. What we call life is continual process of dying. We don't know life yet. How can we live? The body goes on weakening every day. Strength goes on decreasing every day. Enjoyment and passion go on sucking our energy every day, go on aging us. Passion and desires are like holes, and our energy, our being, goes on flowing out through them. In the end, our pali is empty. This is what we call death. Have you ever seen? If you throw a bucket full of holes into a well, as long as it is submerged in the water, it seems to be full. Pull on the rope and lift it out of the water, and already it has started emptying. It creates a great noise. Is this what you call life? Falling streams of water? Is this what you call life? And as the bucket draws closer to your hand, it becomes more and more empty. When it reaches your hand, it is empty, not a single drop of water. This is how our life is. When a child is not born yet, he seems to be full. Just born, he starts emptying. The first day of birth is the first day of his dying. He starts emptying 1 day, dead, 2 days, dead, 3 days, dead. What you call your birthday would be better called your death day. It would be near to the truth. You have been dying for 1 year and you say a birthday has come. You have been dying for 50 years and you say you have lived for 50 years. Let's celebrate my golden anniversary. But you know, died for 50 years. Death is drawing nearer and life is receding further and further. The bucket is emptying. Do you base your thinking about life on what is receding, or do you base it on what is drawing nearer? What kind of inverted arithmetic is this? We are dying every day. Death keeps creeping closer. Ashtavakra says, passions are poisonous because by indulging them, we simply die. We never get any life from them. O beloved, if you want liberation, then renounce the Vishas, the passion as Visha, poison, and take forgiveness, innocence, compassion, contentment, and truth as a nectar. Nectar means that which gives life, that which gives immortality. When one has found it, one will never die again. Then forgiveness, anger is a poison. Forgiveness is ambrosia. Innocence, divineness is a poison. Simplicity, innocence is nectar. Hard-heartedness, cruelty is a poison. Kindness, compassion is nectar. Contentment. The worm of discontent goes on eating up everything. The worm of discontent sits in the heart like a cancer. It goes on penetrating into it. It goes spreading poison. Satisfaction with what is, no desire for what is not. What is more than enough. That it is more than enough. Open your eyes a little and see. No one need impose contentment upon life. If you look attentively, you will find that what goes, what you get is always more than what you need. You go on receiving what you want. You have always got what you want. If you wanted unhappiness, you got unhappiness. If you wanted happiness, you got happiness. If you wanted something wrong, you got something wrong. Your desires have shaped your life. Desire is the seed, and the life is its harvest. For life after life, you have been getting what you desire. Many times you think you desire one thing but receive something else. Then the error is not in what you desire. You have only chosen a wrong word for what you desire. For example, you want success and you get failure. You say you failed because what you wanted was success. But he who desires success had already accepted the failure. Within, he has become afraid of failure. Because of failure, he desires success. And whenever he wishes for success, the idea of failure comes. The idea of failure goes on becoming stronger. Sometimes he succeeds, but he is certain to spend his journey through life in failure after failure. The mood of failure goes on deepening. It deepens so much that one day it manifests. Then you complain that you wanted success, but in wanting success, you have wished for failure. Lao Tzu has said, wish for success and you will fail. If you really want success, never wish for it. Then no one can make you a failure. You say you wanted respect, but you are getting insult. A person who wants respect has no respect for himself, yet he wants respect from others. He who has no respect for himself wants others to cover it, to hide his lack of respect. This desire for respect is the sign that within you feel disrespect for yourself. You have the feeling that you are nothing. Others should make you into something, should put you on a throne, should raise banners for you, should hoist flags in your name. Others should do something. You are a beggar. You have already insulted yourself when you wanted respect, and this insult goes on deepening. Lao Tzu says, no one can insult me because I don't want respect. This is what receiving respect is. Lao Tzu says, no one can defeat me because I have dropped the very idea of winning. How can you defeat me? You can only defeat one who wants to win. It is a strange fact. In this world, those who do not desire respect receives it. Those who do not want success get it. Because those who do not want success already accept that they are successful. What more success do you want? You are already honored by the being within you. What more do you want? Existence has already given you respect. by giving birth to you. Who else respects do you want? Existence has given you enough glory. It gave you life. It has blessed you with eyes. Open them and see the green trees, the flowers, the birds. It has given you ears. Listen to music, to the splashing of waterfall. It has given you awareness so you can become Buddha. What more do you want? You have already been honored. Existence has certified you. Who are you asking like a beggar for a certificate? Those who beg a certificate from you? It is a very hilarious situation, two beggars face to face, begging from each other. How can you get anything? Both are beggars. From who you are asking respect? Who are standing in front of? You are insulting yourself this way, and the insult will deepen. Contentment means look at what you have. Open your eyes a little and see what you have already got. This is an extremely valuable key Ashtavakra is giving. It will slowly become clear to you. Ashtavakra view is very revolutionary, very unique. His revolution is from the very root. Take contentment and truth as a nectar, because one who lives in falsehood will go on becoming more false. One who tells lies, lives in lies, will naturally be surrounded by lies. His connection to life will be shattered. His roots will be cut. Do you want roots in existence? Those roots are possible only through truth. You can be linked to existence only through authenticity and truth. Do you want to be cut off from existence? Then create a smoke screen of lies. Make great clouds of lies around you. The more you become false, the further away you will be from existence. You are neither earth, nor air, nor fire, nor water, nor ether. To attain liberation, know yourself as the witness, conscious of all this. These statements are so immediate, not even an introduction. Ashtavakra has hardly uttered 2 sentences, and meditation comes in. He began to talk about samadhi, about deep meditation. One who knows has nothing except samadhi to share. He said 2 sentences. First, because if he had immediately started talking about samadhi, perhaps you would have been too started to understand. But 2 sentences and immediately he is talking about samadhi. Ashtavakra does not even take 7 steps. Buddha took 7 steps, and on the 8th step samadhi. Ashtavakra brings up samadhi on the very first. You are neither earth nor air, nor fire nor water, nor ether. Let yourself relax into this truth. To attain liberation, know yourself as the witness, consciousness of all this. The witness is the key. There is no more valuable key than this. Be the observer. Whatever happens, let it happen. There is no need to interfere with it. The body is composed of earth, air, water and ether. You are the lamp within by which all this air, earth, fire, water, ether are illuminated. You are the observer. Go deeply into this. Know yourself as the witness. That's all for today. As a practice, Start observing things around you without any mental commentary. When you drive a car, when you eat, when you are sitting, start observing things without any judgment, without any analysis. Just try to see things as it is. This is what Ashtavakra says, that be an observer of everything which is happening around you and see how the peace and bliss comes near you. Thanks for listening. I will see you next week with next chapter.